We'll see what happens. All right. So continuing on. The next, so what our analyst says is the effect of this is to, quote, enable the reader to observe the protagonist's thoughts, feelings, dreams, and memories. So it's true, but we might ask ourselves, well, is that important for this particular excerpt? Like, that's always true for this kind of point of view, but how does that affect this particular theme or this particular excerpt? That's the question we want to ask. The next technique pointed out is vivid imagery. And again, the effect is to create pictures in readers' minds, okay? So we might, and gives an example of the Kachina doll. But again, we might ask ourselves, well, all imagery does that. Is that important in this particular excerpt? And if so, why? That's the important question to ask. So the next section here, it mentions that the doll, the Kachina doll, which we're going to read about, is more than just a doll. It's more like a symbol in the novel. The author uses symbolism in the novel to demonstrate Luke's strong relationship with his home. So now we have something which is connecting the technique of symbolism, okay? So the doll is a symbol, it's saying, and it's now connecting it with the theme here of Luke's strong relationship to his home. So this is more, and this tells you the fact that the analyst is able to make a link between the literary technique and the theme of the actual excerpt tells you that this is perhaps a more important, or certainly more evident to the importance of it at least is more evident to the analyst. You follow that? All right, so furthermore...
Can I get a drink of water?
Yep. Furthermore, one of the main components of the novel is memory. Now memory, we've already noticed, right, that memory is one of the themes or topics of this excerpt. So memory, and we could say in terms of a literary technique, what would we call it when you go to a memory? Flashback, thank you. So we have a flashback. So flashback is a literary technique, or it's a feature of a narrative, feature of a storytelling style, and it's connecting to these major themes. So the comparison between his memories and reality highlights his loneliness and emptiness, such as when he opens his eyes, he was all alone. So the memory, again, is being connected now to thematic issues, loneliness and emptiness that he feels. So what I would suggest then is that in this analysis, you can see that memory and flashback is a significant technique. Symbolism is a significant technique, whereas the reference to point of view and imagery is maybe just a sort of generic, like, this is how it works in all writing. So in the next excerpt, which we're going to read in a moment, we're going to flip ahead to the analysis and look again. So yeah, sure. Or can you wait until Armand gets back, please? Thanks. Okay, so The Secret Daughter. The book The Secret Daughter by Shilpi Somaya Gowda, something like that, emphasizes the significance of women in a patriarchal culture. In the novel, a family is separated by India's strict gender inequalities that lead to a little girl named Asha being sent for adoption overseas. Years later, tensions within her adoptive American family arise as she embraces a trip to India to discover her roots and birthplace. In India, she faces class and gender discrimination as well as the opportunity to search for her biological parents. The central idea of the novel is focused on women's inequality that is reinforced by India's strict cultural traditions. However, the true theme of the novel is inspiring independent and powerful women finding strength and overcoming hardships. Now, this thematic analysis here, it's about the book as a whole. So just a quick reminder, do try to stay to the excerpt in particular. But in the excerpt, there are a few things here that we can see. I'm not sure if we see the gender issue as clearly, although I think it is mentioned a little bit. But I think more clearly we see the idea of trying to discover roots and birthplace. Okay? And we see a search for biological parents. So does that relate to any of the themes that we've already identified in the previous excerpt? Home and place. And parents. So that means that we're going to be able to compare these on thematic grounds. In this excerpt from the novel, so here's the technique bit. So in this excerpt from the novel, there are several prominent literary features shown. To begin with, imagery is displayed throughout the text. As readers proceed, they're able to picture clear setting due to the descriptive vocabulary such as dusty air, persistent stench, and sinewy legs. I think that rather than simply saying that this is descriptive and that we can picture it, we could ask ourselves, what specifically are we describing? Dusty air, persistent stench, sinewy legs. We're describing pollution. We're describing garbage and decay. We're describing someone who works hard but perhaps doesn't eat much. So it's showing us, a cultural or a class, or what do you want to say? It's a specific environment, not just a lovely picture, right? This is it's Mumbai, I believe. So the specific picture of this city that it gives is one of perhaps some amount of poverty, or at least civic disarray or something like that. Anyways, the mood of this chapter is dynamic. It is described as creating emotion, anxiousness, devotion, curiosity, and even despair. Symbolism is the main literary technique in the passages. Symbolism, that was mentioned in the previous one as well, wasn't it? You recall that? So in terms of technique then, we're also going to be able to compare these two excerpts in terms of symbolism. Now, I'm going to suggest, now the previous symbol that we mentioned was the doll. What was it called again?
Symbolism.
The Kachina doll. That's a weird spelling. Anyway, Kachina doll. Kachina doll. And the symbolism in the other one is, I'm gonna disagree here with the writer. That's fine. What she says the symbolism is the name Thakkar. So I'm gonna put Thakkar in there. Thakkar. I mean, yeah, it does have some symbolism for sure. Actually, now that I think about it, but I'm gonna also add another thing that I noticed that I felt was really stood out. That in the next one you'll see the narrator is constantly referring to her pencil. Also pens and paper. Pencil and paper. A notepad. She's chewing on her paper, on her pencil. She puts her pencil behind her ear, asks for a pen. She's staring at a page. She's writing words down. She's looking at a blank page. She's feeling bad. Over and over it refers to this pencil and paper, which seems to relate to this kind of search that she's doing. So I'm going to suggest that these are the two symbols that we could be looking for. So moving on. So we have symbolism here. And of course, imagery and symbolism. So for instance, the newly renovated orphanage is named after the Thakkar family. The name represents a new hope for female babies born in India in terms of Asha's success. We don't see this part, I don't think, so much in the section. Maybe this is later in the book. Her family's love and devotion to her. Finally, in the later parts of the chapter, the adoption. Oh no, we do see this. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. The name represents New Hope because the orphanage was, at least in the case of Asha's case, it was successful. She was adopted and lives a good life. So finally, in the later part of the chapter, the adoption center manager mentions about Asha's unusual eyes, and thus he may be able to locate information on her adoption. This recognition was a flashback to when he first met her mother. It also foreshadows the impending discovery of Asha's birth parents. So again, we have memory. So we've got parents, home place, memory, and symbolism in both of these excerpts. And also I'm going to add one more thing to that. Knowing
Oh, you should have told me that before.
/ not knowing.
Wait, you added 5 things?
I added 5 things. So how many groups do we have? 5? Should we split this up and each group take a topic?
No.
Or should we have each person in your group take a topic?
No, just split it up in 5 groups. Yeah, that's a better idea, yeah.
All right, so you gentlemen get first dibs. What do you want?
Symbolism.
Symbolism.
Why do we have to Who's his turn? Wilson?
And back row over here, I guess. Sorry, what? Memory? This is probably the hardest one, knowing, not knowing. We'll see. It's kind of abstract, right? Over here. Parents. Okay. And, yep. Home and place. You guys get knowing and not knowing. Do we have 5 groups or 6 groups? We have 6 groups. Knowing and not knowing is pretty hard. Could we get 2 groups doing that one? So what we want to do is, and leave room so that we can add in other people's ideas here. As you're reading these 2 excerpts, every time you find something that relates to that idea somehow, or that technique, highlight it, underline it, and we're going to collect this information and try to formulate some kind of statement for each in the comparison. So for example, getting the rest of the way back down to the rocks, I'm going to say, for example, blah, 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 blah. Now laying in bed thinking, Dominique, Tangerine, Georgia. Who's Georgia again? Do you remember from the analysis who Georgia was? Georgia is actually his mother, Georgia. Georgia is actually the main character's mother. Okay, so Georgia's the mother, Luke is the main character, and Frank is his father. So everyone write this down, just to make it clear. Georgia is mother. Okay? Yeah. Frank is father. And Luke is the protagonist. The other names, I think probably you can kind of ignore them for now, just to not get too distracted.
We're reading edges first?
Any questions about what we're doing?
We're reading edges first?
Yeah. So let's read both. Let's read edges. Well, let's start with edges. Let's do edges for 15 minutes, and then in 15 minutes we'll have a little chat, and then read the next one. Or should we do both all at once?
No, it's chapter.
All right, we'll do one at a time. We'll do edges first, 15 minutes, and then we'll do the next.